Well, Ryan, thank you for coming to the Kevin Polky The Journey podcast.
Yeah.
And I know we've been talking for a while, and we've known each other for a while. So I was excited to have you here today. And so, I know you've been doing personal training. It's something that you working out is something that you've loved to do your whole life.
Sure.
And so I want to hear a little bit about your story of how it came from something that you've loved,
sure,
and now this is what you're doing pretty much full time. Is that
right.
correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up playing football, you know, and I wasn't always the biggest kid. I was kind of the skinnier, sickly kid, and I hated that. So I decided to start working out. I ran into a guy at a gym one time, and he took me under his wing, and from there grew this career that I have now. When I was in college, I was a double major in physiology and kinesiology. I had an exercise sports science degree as well, so I was kind of using that as my backup to being a pro football player, which is what I hope to do.
Okay.
But I started my own studio back in 2003. It was called Evolution Fitness, and I've been training ever since. It's been a 17-year career, and it's only been the last year or so that my career's really taken off.
Okay.
Because I'm focused now, I'm healthy now.
Okay.
I'm able to take care of myself as well as my clients.
Okay.
So now I'm the PT director of Fit Me Wellness. I was up for the What Rocks Rockford Best Trainer of the Year award.
Okay.
And right now I'm averaging anywhere between 17 and 25 clients a day.
Okay.
And it's going well. So I'm excited about it.
Okay. So 17 to 25 clients a day. So is that? Now, obviously, that's not just individual. You're doing small groups, or how are you doing that?
They're half-hour sessions.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay,
we break them into half-an-hour sessions because basically the first 10 minutes people are warming up, the last 10 they're stretching out, and I have fine-tuned my training so well that we can isolate, individualize, and sculpt and train muscles in a half an hour and be done.
Okay, nice. So, Fit Me Wellness is where you're at right now. So, tell us a little bit about that particular organization, that gym.
Fit Me Wellness is owned by a guy named Greg Georges. Okay. I went to high school with Greg, amazing guy, and it's a smaller gym. We call it a boutique gym or a wellness center. The age demographics generally 55 plus. It's a mature type gym, very, very clean, very calm. We have about 850 members. We've been there for 7 years. We offer amazing classes. 3 of our trainers on our staff have all been up for the What Rocks Rockford Award. We've got a girl, Rachel Carlson, who has won the best group trainer for 3 years in a row. So, I mean, we've got an amazing staff. We've got an amazing core, and it fits me.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me kind of go back a little bit and kind of your backstory. And so, you talked about how you got into fitness, and was it all started with wanting to play sports, wanting to play football, or other sports like that?
Well, I was sick as a kid. I had asthma. I had eczema. I was never supposed to play football, but I loved it, And as a young kid, I was really, really fast. I could run with the wind, but I was tiny. And yeah, my asthma kind of held me back, this and that. Well, I was great up until high school, and then my freshman year of high school at Boylan, I didn't start because I was too small, And that's kind of where I decided, you know what, I want to do this, I want to work hard. And I had an older gentleman. I went and saw my grandparents in Michigan, and they had a small gym there, and I walked in, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. I have no clue, can you show me some stuff? And he was an old school guy, 3 sets of 10, squats and bench press and everything. And he put me on a regime, and every morning I got up, I rode my bike to this gym and worked out, and the older guys were there, and at first they weren't really sure why I was there, but once they saw how hard I worked, they were kind of like, okay, cool, they'd help me out. And that just became a lifestyle for me, and from then on, I went from sitting the bench my freshman year at Boylan to starting every game from there on out, being an all-conference player, from being recruited to going to college. I ended up going to a small school called Carthage College. It's in Carthage, Wisconsin. And I had some offers from NIU to play there, but I would sit the bench for 2-3 years and then play 2 or 1 year. And I just wanted to play ball. I just loved it. It was something that made me feel good about myself. It was the way I let go of emotions and anger.
Sure.
And so I played at Carthage for 4 years. Tore my ACL 3 different times in college. Tore it my sophomore year. Got the surgery done. Came back, rehabbed it. I was a preseason All-American. 4 games in, some guy takes my right knee out. That one blows. And me being the overconfident, cocky guy I was, during my rehab, I dunked a basketball, tore the same ACL 3 months later. So in a 3-month period, I had 3 ACLs done.
Wow.
Ended up finishing my career there. I started as a middle linebacker all my years I played. And then I got recruited to go to the Pro Regional Combine. It's where basically the big schools like, the Nebraskas, the Michigans, they go to the NFL Combine. Well, the small schools get a chance to get recruited too. So they're called Pro Regional Combine. So all the small schools or guys who didn't get picked up in the NFL Combine, they showcase their talent for like Canadian League, European League, Arena, and some NFL teams too.
Okay.
Did that for a while. Got picked up, got cut a lot because my numbers were great. Like I ran a 4.58 40 at 270 with 3 torn ACLs. Wow. But once they saw my medical records, they're like, I don't want to touch that guy,
Sure.
Went over to Canada for a little bit. Went to play arena football in Houston, and then played semi-pro. And I got put in the Hall of Fame for that, and my body kind of started to break down for me. And it's funny that the career path that I took, football, that made me healthy and this and that, blah, blah, when it was over, that's kind of when things veered the other way, and I kind of got unhealthy,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of where it all came from.
Well, tell me a little bit. I'm interested in that first summer that you talked about. That summer that you, because you wanted to play football. Right. You saw, regardless if it was the mirror on the wall or the mirror, that inside mirror that we have, looking at ourselves, and you saw that, all right, if I want to play, I'm going to have to get bigger. I'm going to have to get stronger.
Right.
And so you were in Michigan. What, your grandparents lived in Michigan?
My grandparents lived in a place called Escanaba. Okay. It's in the UP. Okay. Tiny little town that snows like 9 months out of the year.
Okay.
And I grew up there as a child. Every summer I go up there.
Okay.
And this was probably one of my last summers I went up there before, I kind of stopped going. And it just grew on me. It was like, it felt natural to me to do that. And the hard work didn't bother me. It was something that he said, this is what you got to do if you want to be somewhere. And I believed in the guy, and he was right. Okay. And that became this lifestyle, this hard work and dedication and this and that. And from there, in high school, I never drank, never smoked, never went out. I was like the consummate like all-American boy. It was weird, and it kind of went all the way through my career.
Sure. That first summer, and when you were lifting with that guy, and you said there was other guys, older guys were in the gym and stuff like that. If you remember back, I'm assuming you made some gains. I mean, not only from the time period of your life. I mean, you're 14, 15 years old, and you're listening to everything these guys tell you to do, and all that type of stuff. And I'm guessing that's when you got the bug, right? The lifting bug, and then you saw the results of that. How did that carry over when you came back? I mean, obviously football season was beginning when you got back, and but how did that carry over once football was over in the off season? I mean,
well, and that was the thing too, is that if you want to perform at a certain level, you've got to practice and work hard at it. Some people are born natural athletes. I was a natural athlete, but not to the point of the level I wanted to play at. I didn't want to just play high school and be done. I wanted to prove people wrong. That this 5'10", skinny, sickly, asthmatic kid who probably should never go to a college could go to a college.
Right.
And it was kind of cool that that summer with those guys, I put on 30 pounds that summer in Michigan, just working. Wow. It was amazing. And did I hit a growth spurt? Probably. That probably helped. But it's a cool story to say. And from that, I just kind of became that if this is what I want to do, this is what I have to do to get there.
Right.
And it's my choice. You know what I mean? Like, I was the one who decided to go to that gym every morning and do this, and that was the result I got. So I love the idea that I kind of had control over my future or my path at that time.
Yeah. So what was that like? I mean, obviously, as a middle schooler, and in that, that system that you were in, the middle schools that you went to, did you go to a Catholic school, middle school?
No, I went to all public schools.
Okay.
It was definitely interesting. I was, the little sick, skinny white kid, and got my ass kicked quite a bit.
Okay.
And
okay.
It was something that I think it formed me. I see a lot of things in the news now, this and that, and people being picked on and abused and this and that, and I hate that fact, because two things happen. Either someone goes one path or a different path. Now, luckily, I went a path where I decided to protect myself, or to put these walls around me to protect me, and that was with being strong and big. And it's sad to see that some kids, they go a different route and they become depressed and this and that. And I probably had that, but I was probably masking it with a lot of other things.
Okay.
But yeah, I went to public school my whole life, and luckily, someone had seen me playing when I was in middle school, and our team was horrible. We were so bad, and I kind of stuck out, So they're like, "Hey, come to Boylan," this and that. Well, I came to Boylan, and I was not that standout anymore. So I decided I wanted to become that standout.
Okay, and so then, the summer that you were working out, was the summer before your freshman year, or
it
summer
was
before your summer
after my freshman year?
So the summer before your sophomore year.
Yeah, so I went there as a freshman, and I thought I was going to start as a running back.
Okay,
and I never saw the field one time.
Gotcha.
And I hated that, because at that point, that was kind of my identity. I was able to, people knew I was that football player, and then when I went to Boylan, I lost that. I didn't have that, and what sucked too was when I went there, none of my public school friends were there. It was all these new people. So my freshman year, I was kind of lost. I didn't really know where I was at or what my identity was, and I decided I wanted to be that group or that person or that player, and just took it in my own hands and went for it.
Gotcha. And so then you come back, your sophomore year, 30 pounds heavier. Obviously, the coaches are seeing you differently than they saw you before, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, because you still had your speed,
Right.
And then if the coaches are seeing you differently, the players are seeing you differently,
right.
And then that probably changed the hallways too.
Big time.
So tell us a little bit about what was that like, that change that happened, because your freshman year,
sure,
yeah, you're kind of blending in.
Nobody, yeah.
And then now your sophomore year, things are a little bit different.
Well, I went back that sophomore year and I looked at the field, and I'm like, I'm never going to be able to beat that guy out. He's good. Who can I beat out? And I saw this defensive end, and I'm like, you know what? I'm better than him. I know I'm better than him. And I said, Coach, I'm playing defense this year. He's like, what? He said, you can't tackle? He's like, so we put me on the field, and I decided I want this spot. And that spot became my spot the rest of my career at Boylan. I never moved from there. And I kind of got brought into this group of guys in this circle of, all the football players and the kids who had a little bit of money, this and that. It was kind of nice,
Okay.
We didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. My mom worked 2-3 jobs at a time, and my mom was divorced, and we had to fight for where we wanted. It was kind of like we were always struggling, and even for my mom to get me my uniform at Boylan, it was tough. Like just it was money we didn't have, and I built this identity, and no one could say my last name. It's Hoskinson. They would always say it wrong. So my mom would always call me Hoss as a little kid.
Okay.
First 3 letters of my name. And somehow my mom called me Hoss in front of a parent, and it kind of grew, and I became Hoss. I was this person. I was this bigger than life, identity. And I kind of started believing in that too, and I became that person. I wasn't this little, small, quiet, skinny kid anymore. I was kind of this larger than life person. And as my career grew on, that's kind of how I grew. I went from, not playing at Boylan to being this outrageous guy who painted his face on the sideline, and I was the emotional leader of the team, and it just became who I was on the football field. And then as I got older, it kind of spilled out into my personal life too.
Sure, yeah.
And it was hard to really decipher who I was sometimes.
Okay.
I almost built this alter ego to protect me from being hurt, I guess.
Well, you had tasted what it was like to not have that identity, and obviously it sounds like you liked what you got from being Hoss, right? And so when I talk about because of wounds, and if someone doesn't intervene at that time, or were even open to into that intervention, this false self develops, this Hoss develops, right? And that doesn't mean it's all bad.
Right.
There were some good things that came out of that,
amazing
right?
Things.
And it led to you, playing football in college, and led to you some adventures that you had afterwards. But if it's still a false self,
right,
it sooner or later, right, it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back and bite us. So, well, you mentioned something earlier about your mom got divorced. Was that from your father?
Yes. My father was a Vietnam vet. He was an iron worker, and they had me, and when he came back from the war, he was just never the same. He was just a different person, and there was a lot of drinking, there was abuse involved, this and that, and to protect me, my mom left immediately. There was an incident that happened where it got very physical against my mother and against me. I actually have a scar on my cheek from where he hit me when I was a baby. He hit me, and from that, she walked. She's like, no more. And never met him. He ended up showing up. He lived in Freeport too. I mean, literally 20 miles away. Yeah. And he ended up showing up at a football game of mine when I was in high school. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? And then when I was in college, I came home for the summer to do some training, this and that. And my mom was at this company she worked called Rockford Office Supply, and I walked in and. They're like, we need to talk to you. Your dad's really sick and is in the hospital. Oh, great. So I literally have never spoken to the man. I mean, besides like, hey, what's up? Went to the hospital, and he had part of his jaw removed, part of his tongue removed. Sorry. And he was really sick. So I sat down by him and talked to him. I said, hey, you know what? I said, you're my dad. I'm your son. And I said, I love you to death. I said, and I forgive you for never being there. And he started crying, and he got so emotional that his feeding tube came out, and they had to come in and take care of him. And I went out in the hallway. I actually got sick. So that day happened, and I walked away, and I went to the gym, of course, and worked out, and everything's okay, we're fine. And so like 4 days later, I came home and saw my mom again, and it was really somber in the room, and I'm like, what's going on? I said, who the fuck died here? And her dad passed away today. And I walked out into this alleyway where we had our delivery vans, and I punched like a 2-inch dent in the side panel of a moving van. Like I could not believe the primal noise that came out of my body and the anger and the force I was able to create through all these emotions into this piece of metal. And so we ended up burying him a little while later, and come to find out, he had another son named Kylie. And is it Kylie? I don't know. My memory isn't the best. And he would take him to baseball games and go fishing with him and this and that. And I was always like, well, why was that not me? Why did he do this with him and not with me? And so there are always a lot of unanswered questions that never can get. People always said that my dad was protecting me from him by staying away, whatever. But on his deathbed, I gave him solace or some peace in his life, but I didn't mean it, and that was like a turning point in my life where my football became different. Football back before then was just like the joy of playing ball. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was fun. Now football was my way of releasing anger and pain, and it kind of became dark for me. You know what I mean? It was. I still loved it. It was still great, man. And I was fun and all this stuff, but I would set up this memorial in the shower room before games, and it would be pictures of my dad, and I would paint my face with these really horrible, like, evil images of, like, you ever see the movie The Crow? Like that, but a little darker. And I would sit there and I'd listen to this song. It's called Northern Star by Hole. Very, very somber song. And I would sit there and I would just cry and let these noises out, and the whole locker room would sit there and listen to me, and it would get them hyped up. And And my buddy John Sedeska, he was our middle linebacker. He'd walk in and he'd hit me on the shoulder and tell me it's time, and I would walk out and I'd be pouring down tears, and I would just scream. The whole locker room would light up, and we would just go out and just lay people out, and that was my therapy. Not the most healthy thing, but that's how I got rid of stuff and was able to deal with emotions. And then when football was over, I didn't really have that anymore, so I ended up turning to different things.
Sure. Okay. So, well, it's pretty amazing, right? That even though, and I can understand. I mean, you didn't know him, so you gave him the words, "I forgive you," but obviously that was maybe in word's sake that was the right thing to do.
Sure.
But it's pretty hard to forgive someone in that case, right? That you don't know, and you're put in that spot in that situation, and you're young, you're 20, 21 years old or whatever.
Oh, and I was pissed at him too.
Oh.
I was pissed. Like, why weren't you there? You know what I mean? Like, you can't give me a reason, but I understand it now. But at that point in my time, I didn't get it. Like, why would you not want to be there for your son? And why do all these other kids have all this stuff, and we're struggling now because you left us, Right. So yeah, even though I was pissed and angry, I still ate it up and did it. So
we're able to say those words,
right.
And then when you found out he died, right? So that was the beginning of almost giving you permission to release this rage, this really begin the grieving process.
Right.
But like many times, because you didn't, it sounds like, unless there was, it didn't sound like there was someone, that a mentor or someone that could come in and intervene and kind of guide you through that. Instead, it got all twisted, where you almost got affirmed and validated for this shadow side coming out. It's almost like the shadow warrior coming out, and you have all these other players that were almost feeding into it, and became more part of that hoss, that more part of that identity. Wrap that up. So football, obviously college ends, and then you're looking to get an opportunity to kind of move on to the next level, right? But it's different. Everyone's bigger. Everyone's faster. Everyone's and so it's not like playing in college. And college is a much bigger step than in high school. And when would you say, thinking back on it, when would you say that you knew that football was coming to an end, even though you weren't necessarily ready to give it up?
Yeah. I knew it was coming to an end when, because I always had tryouts here and there. We'd fly to Atlanta, we'd fly to Texas, and this and that, and I would always be prepared for it. I would get good sleep, this and that, and I was bouncing in a bar at the time just trying to make some money while I was doing my tryouts, and I hadn't drank or smoked or anything like that until I was like a sophomore in college. And even in college, it was just, it wasn't a huge thing. It didn't control my life. And I remember the week of a big tryout, I was like 3-4 days out, closed the bar, and had people back to our apartment. And I started getting wasted and this and that. And I went to the gym drunk. I wasn't putting in the time and effort, even a third of what I put in when I was a middle schooler trying to get into high school. And this was my shot to be a pro, this is my last opportunity. And I think I kind of realized it was over. I was trying to transition out and trying to ease the pain in my head that this is probably done by just kind of throwing it away,
You said something earlier, and I think there where runs our great risk is that the benefit of something being, we identify with it and we create an identity around it, this activity, this, in this case, football, the sport, and then who you were on the field and then who you were off the field, this hoss. When it became your identity, there was upsides to it, obviously, but then the downsides are when it ends.
Right.
Or when you see it starting to come to an end. I know for me, at least, that was a reason why I stayed too long back when I was competing as a bodybuilder. Sure. I stayed too long because who will I be if I stop? Who will I be if I retire? I don't know what to do if I wasn't a competitive athlete. Right. You know, I didn't. And then I was afraid that, you know, what would I'd be invisible again? Right. You know, and so it sounds like you were going through some of the similar struggles at that time. So football comes to an end. You've different injuries you know went through and stuff like that. You got a degree, right? I think you said what, 2 degrees?
Yeah.
So you have 2 degrees. Football is now done. So then what happens next?
Well, I struggle. I bounce from job to job. I start working the bar life, which was a horrible idea looking back at it. But what it did was it gave me that identity again. You know, like I went to I worked as an account executive. I was in a suit and tie every day, this and that. Couldn't deal with it. Couldn't handle it. Like sitting at a desk at a cubicle, having someone tell you what to do all the time. Even though in football that happened, it was different, you know. And I couldn't relate. I couldn't make that transfer from what I was doing into that. So I ended up working in the bar business as a bar manager, bouncer, promoter, and I felt good again because everyone at the bar knew Hoss. It was the guy at the front door. It was the guy behind the thing. It was the guy who, you know, whatever. I kind of had that identity again. And I got the opportunity to play football one more time. I played semi-pro for the Belvedere Rush, and that kind of got me back on my feet a little bit, and I kind of felt better about myself. I still had it. I was still important in life, you know. I still had a cause. And then after that, I ended up meeting my ex-wife, and we got married, and we got pregnant. Well, she got pregnant. I helped. Sure. I hate that we say we got pregnant. Yeah. I didn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
And we had a little boy named Hunter Hoskinson, Hunter Timothy, and he ended up passing away due to kidney problems at 7 months old. We gave birth to him in the hospital, and leading up to it, we knew he wasn't going to make it. We had some ultrasounds done. The ultrasounds had said, you know, both of his kidneys are enveloped in cysts. The kidneys are what creates the fluid around the baby, and that's how they breathe. That's how their lungs are developed. And we went to Madison, and they ended up basically sitting us in front of a panel of doctors, and all doctors said, there's no chance of survival. There's 0% chance. And for me, that was hard to understand because there's always a chance in my mind. Sure. You can't tell me there's no chance. Yeah, sure. And so he ended up passing away, and we ended up burying him in Rockford, and I actually carried his casket to the burial site. I drove him from the funeral home to there, and I actually put him in the ground myself. I was not letting my son go home by himself. You know what I mean? And from that point on, everything completely changed. Everything. I don't know, man. It rocked me, and there was no amount of counseling or hugs or sayings that this is God's plan that could really tell me, you know, that this is why this happened. And things took a completely different turn in my life.
Okay. So, in the midst of that grief, and in the midst of you desiring to be a father, and then obviously struggling with your father not being there and not understanding why. Sure. Right. So now we got these dilemmas going on, this ordeal, right? And unanswered questions, right? And so, but you're still married, right? And still trying to figure out, you know, who Ryan is and what's Ryan going to do identity wise, and I think that's one of the hard things that, you know, sometimes people may not fully grasp, that not only do you go through, you know, the 9 months of pregnancy, but Hunter lived for, did you say 7?
No, we gave birth to him at 7 months.
Oh, give birth to him at 7 months. Okay,
yeah,
I got you. Okay.
7 months, and we held him, and he died in our arms.
Oh, okay. So he was
7 months in utero.
Didn't go full term, and then
They gave us the option to keep him full term or to give birth to him, and we decided as a family that, you know, number one, there's no fluid in there. He's just getting beat up in there. You know, like it was hard to describe that, but also for my ex-wife to carry a baby for 2 more months, just knowing that he's going to die. I mean, it would have wreaked havoc on her mentally and emotionally. Yeah. And not that it wasn't bad enough. It was rough. And so yeah, we decided to give birth to him early. We spent 3 days in the hospital at Meriter in Madison, trying to induce my ex-wife. You know, I was sleeping on the floor. You know, like it was brutal, and just to sit there and wait, it was definitely. I don't know. You don't wish that on anybody.
Tough, huh? In that, I think in that grief and that not knowing, right? And it's a different kind of not knowing. You know, it's a different kind of when you didn't know about with your dad. That's one kind of thing where you could channel that anger.
Sure.
In this case, it's kind of who am I supposed to be angry at?
Right.
And so it's just energy now, and it's grief and it's sadness, but it's not. And plus, you don't have football,
right?
And you don't have those things. So what'd you do? What ended up happening?
Well, you know, we got home from the hospital, and my ex-wife was, you know, singing to a stuffed animal, putting it to bed at night, and I took care of her because I thought I was supposed to do. I took care of her to make sure she got to bed, make sure she was okay, this and that. And when I put her to bed at night, I would go downstairs and sit on the couch, and just my mind would race. And at that point, I still, you know, was doing well. I was working, this and that. And as I sat there on that couch, I started to have these visions in my head. And I thought that I was losing my mind. I started having flashbacks that I've never had before of being raped as a child. And I thought that I was going crazy. I'm like, where is this coming from? Am I awake right now? I didn't know what to do. And so I started drinking, and it wasn't drinking to go to the bar, it wasn't going to a birthday party, it was literally escorting my wife to bed, making sure she had her medication, make sure she was asleep, so I could go downstairs and sit on the couch and chug bottles of vodka just to shut my brain off, so these images in my head would go away. You know, I thought I was going crazy, and come to find out through counseling and this and that, and being able to admit to myself what had happened, I was sexually abused as a child for years by this guy, and my brain had put it somewhere else. Sure. It protected me from it. But when Hunter passed, I guess my explanation is like, you know, you keep putting stuff in a garbage can, eventually it's going to overflow. Right. You know, and I was able to compartmentalize all this stuff, and I couldn't anymore. My brain overflowed. You know, well, that turned into. And no one knew. This is just me. No one had a clue what was going on. I was telling people I was okay, you know, this and that. And it became to the point where I was drinking every night, heavily drinking. And in the morning, I would be so drunk that I would have to find a way to wake up. Well, started off with caffeine and, you know, stimulants from working out, this and that. Well, that wasn't doing it anymore. And then I started doing cocaine. Well, it became this horrible cycle of being so drunk to try to function next day, do cocaine to wake up enough, but then the cocaine would get you so high, you have to drink again, come back down to try to just stay level. And I lived that way for almost 2 years in private. Like, I would go and sit in parking lots, and I would park in this back area, wherever, and I would sit in the back of my truck, and I would chug vodka before I went home, so I could just deal with the fact that I was in the home with a woman where we lost our child and all this stuff. And I would go sit in the garage, I'd find reasons to go outside or something, and it became this horrible, horrible, miserable existence. You know, I wasn't even living, I was just surviving. And me being the guy who was brought up, you know, you don't cry, you keep your emotions to yourself, you protect yourself, this and that, I didn't tell anybody. You know, I couldn't admit that I was abused as a child by a man, that this big, huge, strong football player who women loved and men feared and all this shit was raped by a grown man as a child. That I was depressed, that I couldn't deal with stuff, and don't know. It was really horrible, and it took me finally completely hitting at that point that rock bottom to realize what was going on and ask for help. And even then I wasn't really ready for help. I just kind of like did it to appease people.
Sure.
You know, because my whole life, if there was a situation that happened, I could handle it or control it. If I couldn't play football, I just worked out harder. Or if this guy was faster, I worked harder than that. There was always a way that I could physically do something to change my my path. And it started off with Hunter passing away. With all this strength and all this determination and all this willpower that I have, I could not save my son's life. With all this strength and willpower and all the stuff that I have in my heart and my soul, I could not deal with my depression and my anxiety. So
and the trauma of the sexual abuse. Yeah.
You know, and it just kind of all came to a head.
What's interesting, you know, that's the paradox, right? It's so, you know, all throughout your life, it was ability to use will, to use strength, to use self-discipline, determination, whatever, and then you come across something like this, or it's not come across, it's been there, it was there, you know, the majority of your life, and they talk about, you know, in the 12-step program, that you admit that you're powerless over something, and it's that paradox of being powerless and admitting that you're powerless is where the beginning of getting freedom, getting liberated from that dragon or that demon or whatever. So I know that you just recently celebrated a birthday, and so tell us a little bit about what that means and.
Well, he's not talking about me being 41 right now. I ended up celebrating 365 days of sobriety on December 6th. I've lost count of the days now, but I'm into my 13th month of sobriety. I've never been happier. I mean, you know, does life still happen to me? Yes. Shit still happens. I still have disappointments. I still fight with my girlfriend. Like, just because I'm clean and sober now does not mean that everything's rainbows and unicorns and glitter. You know, it's like stuff still does happen, but I have different ways of dealing with it now. You know, I can accept them. I can accept the fact that I can't control everything. You know, I'm not that guy that I used to be where I have to control stuff. And if I can't control it or fix it, I'm not a failure. You know, you can still have failures and still fall down, but it's just getting back up again. And you know, even when I went back to Rosecrans when I got clean and sober. I found God. God was a huge part.
Why was that? Why was God a huge part?
Well, because, you know, I mean, number one, it's part of the program. You know, my first time through rehab, I'm like, I don't want to listen about that stuff. And because I had just lost my son, you know, and I was mad at God. Man, I was mad at God. Because you can't tell me why God would take a child. You know, you cannot explain that to me. And so I blamed him for everything. You know, it's all God's fault. God's against me, this and that. Well, I met this theologian who worked at Rosecrans, and we were talking back and forth one morning, and I was rapping with him, and I was trying to trip him up on some God stuff, you know. Sure. Everything I said, he would shoot me down. And he goes, did you realize that there are different powers that work, right? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you have good, there's got to be evil, right? He says, so who are you really mad at here? He goes, why are you mad at God when there's something else out there that may have been a part of this? And I go, shit, you're right. Like, I've been angry at God my whole life, which, here's the thing, to make a human body, imagine all the things that have to come together and be perfect. You know what I mean? God didn't take my child. Shit just happens, you know. Unfortunately, things happen in life. And the minute that he told me that, I kind of like go, okay, I'm okay with this. And that was the missing part in my grieving process with my son. And once that happened, it was kind of clear sailing for me. I mean, I still struggle every day. Do I think about drinking? Sure. Who doesn't? Who doesn't sit and go, God, I'd love to have a beer today? You know, or I'd love to go to the bar with my friends and hang out. But I don't, because I know what's inside of me. I know the chaos and the destruction that laid in my past. I mean, I lost everything, Kevin. A year ago in December, I was arrested. I had a DUI. I got caught with cocaine. I lost my wife, lost my house. I had no money in my name. They took my truck. I lost everything and had to start from scratch. And here I am a year later. I was up for an award for the What Rocks Rockford contest. I'm part of a group called the Fatherhood Encouragement Project, where we go out and we feed and clothe the homeless. We adopt kids for the holidays. We meet with other fathers to try to help them become better fathers themselves. I got an amazing girlfriend. My job is taking off. I mean, it's unreal what you can accomplish in a year. And to look back to where you were a year earlier, you know. And I just hope that, you know, I can give people hope that there is something on the other side of addiction. You know, it's not all about when you get clean and sober. It's not going to meetings, talking to your sponsor, blah blah blah. Yes, that is a pain in the ass and it's tiring, and you think that's what life's about, but it's not. There's so much more out there, and I mean, I've accomplished more in the last year in my life than the prior 5 of, you know, me fighting and struggling, all because I finally gave up. And I said, you know what, I can't do this on my own. I'm not that guy.
You know, it's interesting as you're telling the story, and the word that comes to mind is surrender, right? And surrendering that ego, surrendering what you thought you know, right? You know, because it's like you said, it's not just, you know, not using drugs or not using alcohol or some chemical to anesthetize yourself, right? It's that's part of it. You have to do that first, you know, because that's in the way. Right. But then it's also then learning how to see things differently, facing those demons. In your case, it was the spirituality piece, right? The God thing, and you know, then obviously you had to do work around the trauma that you dealt with, you know, as you were a small boy, and Dad being gone, and then of course with Hunter. I mean, so those are all different things that, you know, you could use alcohol and cocaine to medicate it, put a Band-Aid on it, but it doesn't go away. And not only that, but with a hangover, you gotta, you know, it's even worse waiting for you.
And then you're broke on top of it, because I'm spending all my money on this stuff to feel better. And every time you wake up, you're just as miserable and you're more broke. You know, so nothing gets better; it gets worse.
And so let me ask you this, because I know in my life there was a similar part of it, but it almost sounds like, and you didn't say it, but it almost sounds like the same determination, the same drive that you used when you wanted to become a football player, when you wanted to be on the field and not on the sideline, is almost like it sounds like the same drive that you used in the past year. Right? Would you say it's close?
It's definitely the same thing. I mean, it's not as physical as it was. It's just as mental. It's just as emotional. Because they always say in the program, take it one day at a time, you know? And it's true. If I look down the road, man, it's horrible. It's a long way to think that you are going to fight every day of your life to be sober and clean and to be the person you want to be. But every day I wake up and I just rock and roll, man. And I put things in front of me that are healthy for me. I put things in front of me that I think are going to help other people. And it's kind of like, I work harder now at being the person I am than I ever did on the field. You know what I mean? That came easy to me. Working out and being strong and being tough and all this crap that I thought was important came easy to me. That's who I was. But this is work to me. You know what I mean? Keeping my emotions in check, accepting the fact that I'm not the end-all, be-all for everything. I do have faults. I am wrong. I screw up all the time, and it's okay. You know, and that's the hard part for me. But I'm just so much happier now. I'm happier now being flawed. I'm happier now knowing that I fuck up all the time. I'm happier now that I don't gotta be right all the time. You know, it's a struggle, but I'm so much happier.
Sure. Well, and I think that being able to come to that place, you know, that, you know, if before you couldn't admit that you messed up, or you had to cover it up, or if you did admit it, it was only from a standpoint of kind of like you did with your dad that day.
Yeah.
Just to, okay, it's the right thing to say. I know you want me to say that, so I'm saying it.
Sure.
Versus now recognizing that perfection is a fallacy.
Yes, it is.
And this idea that it's about this journey, it's about this process of, okay, I need to show up, I need to be there, and I need to address these things that come popping up, because if we don't address them, they don't go away. They just go dormant for a while, and then they come popping up. So I knew you, I knew you a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, in your past, and now what you're doing with your clients and what you're doing for the community as far as being able to reach out and help people. How would you say now that you're beginning to learn more about yourself, how would you say that helps you as a trainer, as a motivator, as a coach with your clients?
It's easier for me now because with me being able to admit the fact, see, I tell my clients up front that I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, I'm clean and sober, this and that, because number one, I never want them to hear it from somebody else, because it's Rockford's Rockford. People talk. I don't want them to pull up my mugshot one day and be like, "Oh, this is my trainer, great." I also want them to know too that me being the guy who's helping them, I'm this buff, smart, whatever guy, but I struggle too. They can relate to me. They don't see me as this bigger than life person, because I'm not. I'm human. I'm just like they are. I just happen to have been blessed with the opportunity to work out and deal with certain things, but I have depression, I have anxiety, I have eating issues, I have body issues. Like, Kevin, look at me. Would you ever think that I'm a small guy? No, right? But I look in the mirror, and if I haven't worked out my arms that day, I'll wear a long sleeve shirt.
Sure.
Because I feel like my arms aren't big enough.
Sure.
So I have the same problems they have. They're just coming to me for me to help them out, and to being able to make them feel comfortable. They can relate to me. They realize that they're not a bad person because they want to have an Oreo or they didn't run that day. It's not a big deal. It's not life or death. It's all about just being healthy. It's about trying to be a better person today than you were yesterday. And if you don't do your best today, try again tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's always that next day to try to become a better person, or to become the person that you want to be. And if you fail, that doesn't make you a failure. You know what I mean? The person that you see, or the person that you were in the past, does not define who you are. Like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. That does not define who I am. It's something that happened to me. It's something that was inside of me, but it does not define my present or my future. These people that come to see me, if they're overweight or they don't feel healthy or they have whatever, it doesn't define who they are. They're a great person. They're human. They're a mother. They're a father. They're a son. They're a daughter. There's so much more about them than just someone who wants to lose weight. And I think because when I train my clients, it's not just a job for me. It's not, okay, you're here, we work out, you leave. We become very, very close. And it's almost kind of like a counseling session. I tell them, when you come here, this is like Vegas. Okay, there's no slots and no strippers and no drinks. But when you want to talk to me, because if we don't heal you inside here, and I'm pointing to my heart, guys, you guys can't tell. If we don't heal you inside here, none of this is going to work. You can be the most physically fit person in the world and look the best in the mirror, but if your insides are struggling, it's not worth it.
Well, I 100% can identify with what you're talking about, and I know that's a big part of my journey, and everything I can relate to regarding everything from the body dysmorphia to some of the other things, and I know for me, my spiritual development in that time period of being able to reflect and meditate is a huge part of my life, and I want to thank you again for not only coming on the show and being part of it, but just for being so transparent and being so open. I really appreciate it. I know that the people who are listening, if just one person, can hear your story and hear, what you needed to do to get real and face those demons of what you thought your identity was supposed to be, and now moving more toward working toward who Ryan was really designed to be.
Right.
So,
well, and I'm actually happy this journey happened to me. I think that if I didn't have all these failures and didn't fall and all this stuff, I wouldn't be who I am today. You know what I mean? I think it really formed me. And I just want to tell everybody out there, please don't wait to get help. If you're struggling, if you have something you're thinking about, go talk to somebody. Don't wait until you're like me, 41 years old, and lose everything to decide it's time to take your life back. I mean, there is life after addiction. There's life after recovery, and it's fucking beautiful, guys. It's beautiful. And just go out and grab it. That's all I got to say.
Brian, I appreciate it, man.
You got it, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
all
welcome.
Right. All right.